Since YouTube's beginning, it has served as a platform for talented creators to put out videos where they can share their love for arts with like-minded people. Nerd culture wasn't the mainstream craze you see today, and for a lot of folks, it was the only way they could easily share and appreciate their love for something that would be considered a very niche interest until the late ooze. A forefather on the platform, James Rolfe, the angry video game nerd, is an internet personality who uses his nostalgia of 80s nerd culture to deliver a time capsule of the past, focusing on the idea that in simpler times, gaming culture was fumbling its way out of the crash of the video game industry that came the decade prior. And along the way he uses his crass attitude to properly drive home how sleazy a lot of developers and publishers' tactics were when putting out games for what was to be considered one of the greatest eras in console gaming. James had seen the positive feedback his project had garnered and decided to keep at it, setting him to cross paths with the rising entertainment company Screwattack. Screwattack was a gaming edutainment website that showcased original content and found itself to be a home for the rising audience of video game enthusiasts. Their story is a video of its own. In fact, Stuttering Craig often gives a lot of insights into the history of their network over on his channel. With the angry video game nerd on their roster, the site was able to continue its ever-growing traction at an alarming rate, bringing on other creators and producers to join their network, one of which being what I'd consider to be a real hidden gem of early online media. This series, of course, being The New Adventures of Captain S.
He's Captain S, and he is one hell of a guy. He's Captain S, be glad that he is on our side. The bad guys do not stand a chance. They see him and they wet their pants. He'll kick their butt from here to France, so yeah. He's Captain S.
Started by PBC Productions, The New Adventures of Captain S is a show about a Sega-obsessed college student named Chad who becomes the defender of the video game world and must protect the real world from the ever-growing threat of the evil game genie. Together, with the help of his friends Becky and Lunk, the trio work together in ensuring Chad has what it takes to be the protector that destiny has once foretold. What started as a joke from series producer Chad Williams, who came up with the idea after dressing up as Captain S to antagonise Nintendo fans at a convention, became the passion project for his group of collaborators to invest so much of their influences in making a tongue-in-cheek parody of 90s television programming like Captain N the Game Master, Saved by the Bell, and shows like Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad. The concept isn't entirely out there, as there are other internet producers doing similar things. However, what made this show stand out was its self-awareness. Characters are rather two-dimensional, but with a plot as wacky as this show, their basic sense of humour does well not to linger on jokes, preventing characters from stepping over each other or letting the audience know not to take it too seriously. Which, combined with the quality of early internet YouTube, meshes really well into passing it off as what it achieves to parody. The show ran for 10 episodes, a bonus Christmas crossover, and an unreleased pilot only available on DVD. The first episode focuses on establishing our cast. Chad Belmont, a savvy fan of Sega hardware, agrees to meet his closest college friends, Becky, a brainiac who cares more about Chad's well-being than he does, and Lunk, a lovable Jack who loves food and although he isn't the brightest crayon, often gives sound and heartfelt advice when people need it. While Chad plans to meet the duo at an annual bake sale, he becomes distracted by his love for video games and ends up purchasing a mysterious game cartridge from a gypsy. But before doing so, we meet the antagonist of the series, Chad's childhood rival and fanatic of the Nintendo Entertainment System, Nigel, aka Ness. The two butt heads and we get an idea as to why they have so much dislike for each other. The console wars was pretty stupid with hindsight, and their back and forth sounds like the playground insults thrown around in the early 90s.
What's the matter, Ness? Not playing with enough power?
What do you know of power?
One word, Ness. Blast processing.
The conflict is diffused and Chad purchases the mysterious cartridge instead of using his money in the bake sale. After prepping the game and getting it to run, he is teleported Tron style to the video game dimension named Videoland, where he meets the face an entity who monitors Videoland and foresees an evil approaching. Chad is given the title of Video Defender and is granted a Genesis belt, light phaser, and a mouse to improve his arsenal of powers. Sent further into Videoland, Chad ends up in the Sega title Altered Beast. There he kicks his way through hordes of enemies and faces a fearsome foe, revealed to be Ness, who is in cohort with his own Videoland entity. The episode ends with Chad defeating the boss and restoring order. Meanwhile, Becky and Monk show up at Chad's apartment, and rather than him telling them the truth about what happened, the three have a sitcom ending with a message about letting your friends know that sometimes you don't have to join in when everyone else does, and if you change your mind, let them know, because they'll be worried or whatever. I wanted to give a summary of the first episode, just to at least give some context. The show was first produced November 2006, where it met an online release at the end of January on YouTube, but a little bit earlier on the website. Due to its success and the team's ambition to make more, they became the collective PBC, placed by the Coast Productions, and would use that format for Captain S and a lot of other videos like documentaries and another series like Little Miss Gamer. The crew at hand was the previously mentioned Chad Williams, Brett Vanderbrook, Lindsay Briggs, and Darren DeMarco. The four had met already through an improv group, Fredonia State Improv Society. However, three of them had already known of each other through SUNY College. This wasn't the group's first project, however. In 2003, they were sick of the scumbag attempts at talent that Uwe Boll was trying to bring to Hollywood in his video game movie adaptations. So while in college, Darren, Chad, and a whole bunch of others would form X-Strike Studios, and they're another lot that deserve their own video. You see, X-Strike are like Mega 64, but on drugs. Well, just a different type of drugs than what they were taking. If you want to know more about that company, there's an article written by one of their own in 2015. A year earlier, the studio decided to stop any further productions. Their movies are still available on DVD via their store, and their YouTube channel features a whole bunch of trailers and promos. After the first 3 episodes of Captain S was shot in late 2006, the crew decided that they wanted to properly invest in this project and make efforts to improve camera and mic quality. The show was filmed in a few locations, mainly Chad's apartment, the college they attend, and other places like a shake shop and a field. However, in Videoland it features video game footage, which at the time was pretty impressive even still looking back. Not only recording game footage, as capture methods were pretty obscure in the early days, especially on a budget. What turns the footage into locations, however, is how they keyframe video on top of the game's player sprite, replacing it with green screen footage frame by frame using Final Cut. The show's corny, and it does suffer from early internet video issues like low upload quality and next to no budget production value. However, the acting never felt out of place. The locations were all places that were always passable for what they were going for, but something that really helps the show out is the music. Mixed in with Mega Drive and video game music is an original score done by composer and artist Glenn Case, who would end up being a staple for the crew, having him compose more as the series went on and providing a new ending song for each episode. It's all rock music, but it's that 90s grungy alt-rock style that sort of sells the show for me as being something that actually could have come out in the 90s. There is a lot more to talk about with the show, the growing cast of characters, the mid-season shift from episodic storytelling to having an overarching narrative, and even the later use of puppetry and practical effects. But I find the show should really speak for itself. If you're interested at this point, check it out. It's all there. If you can vibe off the first episode, then you'll probably love the rest. I'm not an analyst. I don't want to go into much detail of the show's overall synopsis because I know there's probably someone out there that could do a better job. And better yet, the show's free, like I said. I'd rather tell you more about the behind the scenes and the crew's intentions for what the next step after the season is once it ended. With the rising success of the first episode, both online and at certain convention screenings, it wasn't long before they'd appear on the radar of someone in search of something original, every freaking day. Stuttering Craig was in search of producers that wanted to feature their content on his platform, screwattack. PBC would promote Captain S on their site, and with the crew already having 2 episodes good to go, they were released there while production continued for the rest of the season. Once it was all wrapped up, DVDs of the show would be made and all profits would go to the crew of PBC, with some manufacturer cuts I'm guessing. Regardless, when it ended, the crew intended all funds go to their next ventures. However, things were pretty thin. There was no money in early YouTube, and screwattack had barely made much money either, at least not yet. And DVD sales weren't making any kind of profit turn for any of the efforts put into it. During the time after Season 1's end, things would become more difficult for the team. While they had the passion and drive, they were just out of college and hadn't had a job since. There was no money, not just for the funding of Season 2, but to live. No one could see PBC earning a profit from merch sales, so they slowed down production and focused on other projects. However, that's not the end. While series like Little Miss Gamer would go on to be featured on screwattack's competitor, that guy with the glasses, the crew was already well into writing Season 2, and they even managed to hire an artist to put together a webcomic series that could separate the gap between both seasons. Also, a crossover episode was done between them and the Angry Video Game Nerd. He was even featured in the Nerd vs Critic battle that took the internet by storm in 2007. This is probably the most cringy thing to come from the Captain S franchise in my opinion. It's not Brett's fault though, and apparently he was told about the fight 2 days prior to the event, and with James being someone who'd rather not have a friend take a backseat, he asked if the captain wanted to get in on the action. Also, it gave them a chance to use the Good, the Bad and the Ugly song for a standoff, I guess. I noticed the crease the most at Doug Walker. I just find the nostalgia critic is an insufferable prick. And I get that's the point, but I don't know man. The fight itself is a massive crease fest. They look like they're having a lot of fun, but in regards to the Captain S mythos, this has definitely aged the most. Real talk though, I do enjoy the idea of there being a continuity in the Nerd Critic series where Captain S exists. If the Christmas special was anything to go by, they at least don't exist in the world of the New Adventures of Captain S, that's for sure. And if that's the case, if Captain S was properly invested in the feud for some weird reason, he's got more skills up his sleeves than those two greasy schmucks. Meanwhile, Stuttering Craig reached out with an offer to the PBC crew. screwattack's biggest investment yet.
It was going to be our biggest investment in content ever. We were going to pay them $20,000 for a second season of Captain S.
A $20,000 deal to produce Season 2 and have it wrap up in time for a DVD to meet the Black Friday sale of 2009.
Maybe it had been 10,000? Remember, it was like in the tens of thousands of dollars.
This wasn't as feasible as what people could have hoped for. The money was there, the deadline looked possible, but during the scriptwriting phase of Season 2, many chefs would have their hand in the pot. From what started as a show done by 2 to 3 writers and editors, turned into the entire crew wanting input. And they could have the input. They were earning no money and doing it all out of their own time. If they didn't like it, or couldn't have things go their way, nothing could really stop them from giving 100%. And from the sounds of it, that's what was intended. For everyone to be on board, everything to be as fleshed out as the first season, and all that without losing any of the show's charm and its execution. But by the time the script had gone through its final passes, it was already May 2009, and after multiple calls and meetings, the crew came to a realization. No one had the time to invest in the show. The group of friends had been making content together for nearly half a decade by that point. Being 2 years out of college with no employment and funds, it really limits what you're able to do. They could make the show, especially with the funding provided being a big amount for a project that scale, but it wasn't enough to appeal to people who already started getting careers in the professional industry. Once all is said and done, they'd all be walking away with so little that it made the decision more and more difficult. On the 1st of June 2009, Captain S addressed the world with a final goodbye. Fans didn't seem to know how to take the news. Some were accepting of the decision made. However, most felt upset. Heck, I fucking feel upset. having discovered the show recently and getting so invested just to find out it ended this way? Wait a minute, wait. I feel like I'm missing something. Those who haven't heard of the show probably don't know why people were so upset. Sure, to hear something you care about being abandoned is heartbreaking, but people were seriously flawed. Why? Well, PBC did let fans know it was over, but they never really said why. 22 days later, they released a vlog with a follow-up statement to the show's cancellation. Still though, there was no concrete answer as to why PBC decided to cancel, but all that was for certain, it was over. I was able to figure it out due to an article shared on their Facebook page which cited a podcast Brett and Chad were invited to in 2011, 2 years after the original announcement. The interview was conducted through a drive for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, where a listener paid to have the duo come on and answer questions about the show.
We had 11 or 13 scripts written, sort of. It was really sad because we had a lot of work done on season 2. There was just a laundry list of reasons why it didn't work out. We spent well over a year developing the storylines.
Yeah, and one of the things I learned from writing season 2 was that if you're gonna write something, just do it between like 1 or 2 people, man. Because
don't let 5 people be involved in the writing process. It just doesn't work.
Man, everybody was fighting for their darlings, and certain things people wouldn't let go, and we got it done eventually. But
it's kind of a curse to us. Like anything Captain S related eventually kind of falters and fizzles and gets to a point where it's too big for any one of us to continue propping up.
We shot a promo for season 2, got Kitty, Devin, and Ivy all together, and that was the last time I think I've seen Kitty.
I believe it was that night or the next night that I got a phone call from Chad and then Z and and then we started talking
and when was this?
May 2009, I think.
What was so sad was we had done all these announcements and got the fans excited because
we had a budget.
Because we were funded, we were ready to go, but we just there were just way too many factors. The biggest of which being we just couldn't commit the time. I had gone unemployed for way too long, and my time that summer, which was supposed to be doing Captain S, was quickly filling up with all these locations jobs that I was going to do. And then everybody kind of had the same story where we all really wanted to do it.
I mean, we worked on that contract with screwattack for a very long time, and the contract was good. It was working out in everybody's favor, but the problem was it just took too long. And by the time it was signed and we were committed to do it, basically it was May or June, and screwattack wanted to have all of the episodes released in time to make and just distribute a DVD by Black Friday of 2009. We would have had to start airing, not just be done with the series, but start airing the episodes in August for that to happen. Mm-hmm. And this was like May or June. We were talking about possibly, better portion of a year of post-production on this series. Mm-hmm. And we just looked at the timetable and just said, there's just absolutely no way this is going to happen.
To any fans of the show who never knew it existed, I implore you to check it out. They talk about what the plot had in store for the captain, what new enemies they'll face, and they even have a fluffy send-off to the character. We even get to hear what happened to the webcomic. The webcomic was supposed to fill the gap between seasons, however, behind the scenes, their artist Maximo was given a few jobs as a comic artist, and with the crew barely being able to pay him as is, it came to an end in December of 2008. And this was 18 pages into its run, and the news of its cancellation was never really addressed publicly until this interview. PBC was slowly going through a rough patch. No one could properly commit to the future plans of the project, so they kindly rejected Craig's offer and sent the check back to him. Taking the loss, they announced plans to end the show, make a follow-up to explain the plans of PBC going forward, and production would continue to slow down for the next few years following. To give my piece, I feel like there was a disconnect at the time between the audience and PBC themselves. Early internet, some people wouldn't really go into personal details, Something like this could have been a touchy subject for those involved, especially in a time where online video is still new and fertile ground. Transparency like this isn't always an option, especially when you're representing a group of people who probably don't even have the opportunity to tell you how they feel, especially with their lives all changing drastically around you. The show started out as a passion project for those with no money but all the time in the world. And when it came to taking responsibility for their own lives, sacrifices had to be made. If they had made the show a year later, maybe they'd have the chance to reach greater heights they couldn't while YouTube was still getting its footing. But that would cost them all another year of their lives, a year out of college with nothing going on and no drive. If they continued to go forward with season 2, maybe pushed it back another year, they could have worked around everyone's schedules, but at a cost of having just an equally miserable time. At the end of the day, it's a passion project. And if there's no passion or time to put into that passion, what's the point? Opportunity, it comes at strange times. The fact that we take the opportunity at all is important, right? And that's what I think's the case with the new adventures of Captain S. These friends formed a crew to share interests, skills, and make a show full of everything they love and have fun while doing it. Sayonara, Captain S. Forever.
I've been in this boat before. It happened in my nightmare. It happened, I was right there. We've got to bring this ship to shore. I'm trying not to panic. You've got to understand it. We sail above the waves. I think we have been lost for days. I am where I don't wanna be, 'cause there are zombies in the sea. We headed on our trip above those who abandoned ship, and I can't handle it. I just don't wanna believe.
Well, that's it. Hope you enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making it. I mean, I discovered it like less than a week ago, and immediately I wanted to dig up all these answers. It's just crazy to me that it's just this little nugget of internet history is just buried. Apparently there was news on the message boards about letting the fans know what was happening, but all that's gone. There's no way for someone like me, a new fan, to get into the show and figure out where everyone went, what happened. And I hope that maybe this video helps out. Let me know. Leave a comment or whatever. I'd love to keep this conversation going, because I don't know, I'm yet to find people that have watched this show. I have one friend, but that's about it. I didn't even know he knew about it until I had brought it up to him about making notes about this video with me. Goes out to